So Ben Smithy, who's eagerly jumped onto the stage, we're going to let him get right to it. The evolution of why and why it matters.
Thanks. So just as we get started, feel free to ask questions throughout. Totally informal, totally laid back. So ask questions, raise your hand, jump up and down if they don't see you. And if I don't call on you still, that means they don't know the answer, so don't ask me the question. All right, so the evolution of why and why it matters. To get just a little background on me, I'm from Texas, from Dallas. I grew up there, graduated with studying marketing and management. And I started working in marketing with the YMCA, so on the nonprofit side. And I was doing all the creative for like the youth sports leagues and all the different junior sports and all their like fundraising campaigns. And I loved all the creativeness to it. And I met a woman that was there as a fitness instructor, and she said, oh, you like all the creative stuff? Why don't you get really creative, get into market research, and find out what it's really about and what all the creativity is driven by. And I said, great, market research. I don't like stats. I don't like SPSS. I don't like running numbers, and I don't like bar charts and graphs. I said, why would I want to be in research? And she goes, no, qualitative research, moderating. I said, oh, great, just focus groups. And she goes, yeah, kind of like that, but check it out. So she introduced me to this place called Fieldwork Dallas, and what that is a big research facility where they have the big rooms in a corporate high-rise, and they have the one-way mirrors, kind of like those TV cop shows, only a lot more friendly. And I was working there, just helping out the different moderators that came in and helped them run all the different focus groups. And I met my future boss and now business partner, Dave Gustafson, and I moved out to Philly and started doing research in the pharmaceutical side. And if you know anything about market research, if you think about the industry as a whole, it's right here. And then you look at the market research industry, and it's behind about right here. And then if you look at the pharma market research industry, it's probably back here. We still talk to doctors only in the the IDIs, we do a little bit of online stuff, but there's a huge room of growth. And I think the future of research is, if you think about the concept of marketing research, it should be on the front and the bleeding edge, at least the leading edge of things, because we're the ones that are driving our clients to different solutions. And I wanted to diversify our business, and I came up with Spych. And what Spych is we do youth and young adult consumer research. So we focus on Gen Y, millennial market, all that fun stuff, mainly on the consumer side. And we try to take a different approach. So instead of just only the traditional, we blend that with non-traditional. We blend that with, instead of doing just focus groups, if we're going to do a study for Grey Goose, we're going to go out to a bar with 20-somethings and we're going to drink Grey Goose all night, and we're going to talk about, observe their behaviors, see the conversations they're having, and deliver those types of insights to companies that are trying to develop marketing and strategy campaigns for that. Additionally, we do a lot of online stuff. We do a lot of interactive market research, online communities, online focus groups, online bulletin boards, etc. And we're going to talk about today a little bit how that's evolving and how research has evolved and what that means to the market in general. So market research essentially is traditionally asked, what the heck do you want? What do you want in a product? What do you want in a service? What do you want from our company? And that's been the driving force of market research traditionally. A brief history of research. You look, back in the day, it was literally some lady walking around door to door with her pen and paper, knocking on doors, Avon calling, and then talking to people about makeup and such, right? Then it evolved. We had this thing called the telephone come about, and now we were interviewing people over the phone saying, hey, I'm calling in such and so, and they call you at dinner time, and then they call you right in the middle of something, and you say, no, not interested, and hang up. So that kind of died out, and we still do a little bit of that. Then Al Gore invented the internet, and that changed the game, needless to say. So that's a good picture, man. He's looking a little different nowadays, but so the internet came about, and we're like, how do we use the internet for research? And so we started applying it, like I said, taking everything we did traditionally but putting it online. And then everything's leading more toward this. Now we have these like neuromarketing. So we put people in these flak jacket looking things and strap diodes all over their head, and we have them watch TV commercials and say, oh, he was very stimulated by that picture. Of course, it was a half-naked woman. Of course he's stimulated by that picture. And I can tell you that without strapping stuff to his head. And so that's sort of the direction things are going. What's following that, from the research side, it used to be sort of the marketing spectrum. Now I think it's more of an attention spectrum. Before it went to very audio, very oral, to where everything was listening, things you were based on the radio. You were focused on radio ads, the sounds, those different things. And now we've adapted to more visual, very quick, visually stimulating things mixed with audio and experiences. So our attention span and our attention spectrum has changed significantly. So that's one of the leading factors of driving marketing, advertising, and the research that goes into those things. There we go. And the eyeballs are moving. We all know that. It's no secret that traditional media and everything is seriously evolving very quickly. Instead of reading newspapers, people are logging onto Google Reader and reading their blogs every day, syndicating all of that content. Traditional media is becoming more social. You have things like Boxy. If anyone was down at South by, you saw the great debate that was between Mark Cuban and Ronan from Boxy. And you look at Samsung TVs coming out with apps built in, wikis built in, all of the different things built in for social networking. And you start to see this transition of traditional becoming more social. So what does this mean for the future of market research? And a lot of people think in our industry that it's causing the research industry to die. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's causing it to evolve to a place where we need to be and where we should be, because we're supposed to be the ones that are driving those client decisions. If we're going to the client saying, these are the insights, and if these are where the eyeballs are moving, that's where we have to go as an industry to get those insights. If the insights aren't, in the customer service hotline because people are tired of getting caught up in the dial testing and then hanging up the phone, if you're not getting insight that way, they're griping about it and bitching about it on blogs and on Facebook and on Twitter. That's where we need to go to figure out what we need to do to make our clients happy. And it sort of helped flip that funnel. So everybody knows like the Godin concept and everything about the funneling, how everybody's PR and messaging goes through our brains when we funnel it out. And now they sort of flip that, and everybody knows the way social media has caused that to sort of become customer-centric. Everybody nowadays is trying to be service-oriented, customer-centric, organic to the customer, saying, hey, we care about you, and forming those relationships with those 10 people instead of doing the whole quant approach of put your billboard out there and hopefully somebody, out of the 10 million people recognize it, and then maybe 100 people actually act upon it and 10 people actually buy something because of it. So on the research side, it used to be very qualitative in terms of finding insights and finding different things. You do the focus groups, you do the one-on-one interviews and the depth interviews, you do the ethnography, and you'd say, hey, these are the things that people are talking about. But to maximize our marketing dollars, we have to do this big quant study that basically says this is what's going to appeal to the majority of the population. So when you do your advertising and your marketing, you cast the biggest net possible to try to gain as much of the pie as you can. The way social has shifted marketing and advertising, it's also shifted what we have to do on the research side, so it's sort of flipped that. We say we get a general feel, you can observe, you can do all the analytics. I'm sure Ken talked a lot about the analytics and different types of analytical and the algorithms that go behind that. But then it goes more to the qual focus, saying we can't just affect everybody and try to grab as much as we can from that big pool. We have to affect each person one by one and figure out who the 5 most important people are that we have to talk to, figure out what they want in a product, and build it around them, because they will be our marketing and our advertising campaign. The customer experience has changed too. So no longer is it, like I said, on the telephone, writing a letter to the company, writing a letter to the president of the company saying, oh, I had such a bad experience with this and this and this, because it's not effective anymore. Now they're always blogging, they're commenting, they're video blogging, they're blowing it up right on Twitter, right in front of your face saying, oh yeah, right in front of them saying, oh, I don't like this, There we go. And the deal is you have this big social media slot machine of TweetDeck that's coming down, and what's going to cause me to stop funneling through all of this information and say, oh, that's interesting, and click that link? What's going to give me enough value to make that click commitment and open someone's link, open somebody's advertising, and stop and make my eyeball say, wait a minute, that's compelling to me? But I think the secret is really beneath the surface of this social media craze. It's not about Twitter, it's not about Facebook, it's not about LinkedIn. It's about what are the concepts behind it that are driving those tools to be successful? What are the changes in the mindset of the consumers that are causing those tools to be attractive as utilizations for us to voice our opinions, voice our insights, and reach out to companies and tell them what we want? First of all, on the research side, I want to tell you a little bit about how we're actually taking social and interactive for our clients. So sort of digital ethnography. Before, consumers shopped, in stores. They'd go to the mall for everything, as they still do now, but that was what they were limited to. With online shopping and all of that now, you have to observe the behaviors in an ethnographic means. So we would do shop-alongs, we would go and sit and do ethnography studies where we'd sit in people's homes with video cameras and watch their behaviors. We'd go and look at their kitchens, look at their pantries, etc. Because we wanted to see in the natural environment how they bought, how they made purchase decisions, how they based their thinking and how they based their decision making. Now that's sort of shifted. So online shopping, people are looking up reviews online, etc. Now we have to see sort of a digital ethnographic approach. And if you look at it, it's sort of about the share of voice eventually. When you all drill it down, it's, again, people are starting to look at it from the quant side initially and saying, hey, how many impressions are we getting? How many click-throughs are we getting? But in the end, does it really matter if it's not driving decision? If they're clicking through your site and we don't know why they're clicking through or how they're clicking through, what's the conversation behind that? What insight are we gaining other than just the numbers? So it starts with social search. You look at Twitter and Facebook, and everybody knows their game. They're really in the game of search. They're really saying that I'm more relevant as a search tool than Google. I don't go to a static web page search and find a bunch of hits about whatever first is preferred. So for a real example, I was going to Brazil to help a client out and take over for a colleague of mine that got sick, and I needed a visa to go to Brazil. And if anybody's ever tried to get a visa to go to Brazil in less than 5 days, or I should say less than 5 weeks, it's not going to happen. So I went into Google, you take all the Boolean search terms and all of that, and what do you get? I needed a rush visa for Brazil, and I'm based in Dallas, so I needed something in Dallas. And I got first, the Google preferred ads. Second, advertisements for Brazilian tourist sites, Dallas tourist sites, fan clubs for the band Rush, and advertisements for Visa. Right? So what did I do? Out of frustration, I put on Facebook, I was like, damn, I can't get a visa to Brazil. I have to go take over for a client. 3 minutes later, bam, friend sends me a link to a Google map showing me where I need to go, the direct store from my house to theirs. He knew what I was talking about. And he said, hey, go talk to Steve, and by the way, tell him I said hi. That's relevant to me. Now, our customers and our clients are saying, how do we get involved in those conversations? Those are the conversations. How do I be that brand that was recommended in the social search, in the social conversations that occur online? That's not necessarily just a banner ad. That's not necessarily SEO. That's not necessarily buying your way into the conversation. Social review. That's another great spot for insights that our clients are starting to utilize a lot more. It's not just restaurants anymore, it's everything. So Yelp, I'm sure everybody uses Yelp or has heard of Yelp or has come across it at some time. The reason this is compelling, everybody's seen the stats on peer recommendation. It's the staggering numbers on just how compelling it is versus if somebody's recommended a product from a friend versus if they just see an advertisement for it and their likelihood to buy it. The best example is if you're going to go see a movie and your best friend tells you it sucks, you're probably not going to go see it. You're going to wait for it to come out to rent or get it on Netflix. So social search in the review side is becoming extremely compelling. What are people saying? And if you work for an ad agency, how many people are agency folks in here? Just by a loud roar, anyone? So 4 people. Okay, 4 people and 1 loud guy that's really passionate about his job. So if you're on the ad agency side, what's that? It's not just about what they're saying. If you're a copywriter, it's how they're saying it, right? We don't just care what they're saying. Yeah, they like the product. But in what way are they saying those things? What are the conversations? What are the words they're using? What's the lingo that people are using to talk about my restaurant, my club, my product? It's not just, oh, they like it or they dislike it, the sentiment factor. It's how are they saying it? How are they compelled? What are they telling their friends about it? That's what I want to design my marketing. That's what I want to design the copy on my print ad to display.
Hey, Ben. Quick question for you.
I knew he was a woman. I knew it.
Does your client base generally define their target market prior to listening, or do you listen first to better define your target market?
The easy answer is both. And the correct answer is also both. So it depends where they're at in the strategic process. If they bring us in and they have a product like a kid's toy. Obviously, they have somewhat of a defined target market. If they bring us in and some companies will say, hey, we have this, but we don't know who's going to buy it. Maybe it's some sort of house appliance. And do we know, is it going to be the consumers that we need to sell this to? Or is our target market the contractors? Is it, the developers? Are they the ones that want to buy our product and utilize it? And which market do we have a better, market share and preference for? So we'll come in either way. Does that answer your question?
That's an acceptable answer. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Shauna. And so now it's not even, you're starting to get in the blend of things. And you see, this is some of the stats on the peer recommendation. You can see it if you check out the slides later. Here we go. And location. Targeted marketing, by definition, is becoming way less targeted than it used to be. It's what we used to have for targeted marketing is almost non-existent to where the power we have today with location-based applications. So the fact that you have, your Foursquare, your Gowalla, and you have people coming in to restaurants, 250 people at a time, just to check in and get a badge. And you can see what they're saying while they're in there. You can see their recommendations. When you have mashups like this, that's compelling. Brands care about that. Again, they get to see where they're at what time they're there, and what they're saying, what they're recommending to their friends. So if I'm a restaurant, and eventually where this is going to go, is I can see, Lauren goes in every other day to the Starbucks right down the street from my restaurant at about 11, anywhere from 11 to 12:30, sometime in her day. So now if I know that data and I see her coming by, next time that she taps into my Wi-Fi zone, if she's opted in, why can I not ask her, hey, we see that you come by every day. We'd love to just meet you and buy you a drink, buy you a sandwich, buy your coffee today. That's compelling. So for our clients and our companies that are wanting to do this today, they're trying to figure out how to utilize all this stuff. And it's still very new to them. Often as consumers, we expect them, why don't you get it? Why are you not on Foursquare? Why are you not on Twitter? Why are you just blasting your press releases over Facebook? But it's because it's still very new to them. Sometimes we get caught up in the fact and we don't realize that we're very much on the front end of this technology. We're on the heavy user side. We're on the very front end and the early adopters. We don't realize that for a strategic organization to change that quickly, it's near impossible. But we expect them to, and they're working more toward that model. And it's more about, I think, the research evolution side, trying to help pull them to that model. And we need to evolve first as researchers, as account planners, as strategic consultants. Whatever your job may be, it's our role to help pull our clients in that direction, instead of just expecting them to be there and then criticizing when they're not there. Interruption is next. So you can monitor all day long, but what good does it do if you can't interrupt, like I said, that social slot machine and say, hey, I want your attention. And if they listen to it, that's great. So now you have things like the Facebook search, and you have things like Twitter ads that are coming on and sponsored search that are going to really change the game in that aspect. They're saying, how do we create a fan page that people become, and they make the click commitment to be fans of our page, and once they're there, what the hell do we do with it? Do we just send our press releases out there? Why are they not using it to test commercials, test ads? Ask them in the discussion section, what do you like about our brand? What don't you like about our brand? What type of solution would help your life? You can segment those because you have all of that data, and the data that you get from Facebook is extremely powerful. The amount of demographic you get, the amount of history, the amount of, the search capabilities in it, it's endless in terms of the type of data and the value of data that clients can get from this if they know how to utilize it correctly. Example of the discussions. So we have restaurants now that go in and they say, hey, they start the fan page and they see what people are talking about. They see, wedding rehearsal dinner. What's your favorite menu item? Family style dinners. Bad experiences. That's a great one to have. That's all consumer insights in my mind. The fact that I can sit there for little cost at all and talk to my consumers and say, hey, what is it that we can do better for you? Why would that not be compelling to me as an organization, as a brand? I don't care what type of company you are. The fact that you can engage your consumers and your customers on a one-to-one manner, in a real manner, and in a really legit manner, why not be there? So bad experience. Look at this. Normally people, market researchers and companies, pay thousands of dollars to get this type of insight, to get these conversations that are going on, to get this feedback. When now all it is just be compelling, have a reason for your fans to want to interact on your page, and ask the questions. I think the first part that a lot of companies forget is they just don't ask the questions to get the answers. YouTube. Now, if I run an ad on YouTube, or if I run an ad on TV, I don't care if I run it at 3 o'clock in the morning and it runs one time in Podunkville, Texas. Somebody's going to see that and upload it on YouTube. And the thing is, the cost of failure is huge now. If you develop something that is a super huge fail, you get crapped on by everybody in the world, right? Another compelling thing for research, the fact that exposure and transparency is so huge in the social space, in the social web, digital interactive marketing. Transparency is there, be ready. So we urge companies and clients all the time, at least ask the right questions again to get answers. And if it's not what you want to hear, fix it and make it what they want. Innovation versus stagnation. How many great companies have failed because they were too innovative? How many companies, and I'm sure there are a couple, but how many companies have failed because they failed to innovate? Stagnant. Stagnation versus innovation. Pushing the limits. I've heard a lot of buzz, just people talking around in conversations of, people talking about innovation and pushing the limits and taking it to the next step. Things like you guys are doing right here. By the way, this conference is awesome. The production, yeah, clap that up. The fact that you're pushing the limit and you're saying, no, real shit is happening here, and you're drawing people from all over in here, that's huge. If companies have that type of fire and take that type of approach and are willing to take those chances, what's going to limit them? And to focus on the influencers. So again, back from that quant versus qual method and that quant versus qual theory, it's not about affecting the most people. What if I just affect the 5 top mommy bloggers online about my new purse or my new, diaper bag? How valuable is that? Extremely valuable. So now you have things going online like branded communities. So communities is the big buzzword right now in market research. Everybody's wanting to start their own branded community. You want the Craft Moms community. You want the Goldfish community, the Crayola community, Hallmark communities. You want these type of things to where you can have the influencers have, a couple hundred people in your community and tap into them and create that relationship with them online, longitudinally, year after year. Where we're falling short on the research side is we're approaching it like a long-term bulletin board or like a long-term focus group, when it's really not. How many of you have conversations on Facebook because of Mark Zuckerberg, because of the Facebook developers? The conversations you have with your friends start because of that? No, so why should they in the research community? If we approach it in the same way, where we're in these communities, asking them questions all the time, and we're spurring the conversation instead of encouraging the conversation to form naturally, it's no different than just doing a focus group online, and you're getting no value out of it. The value of a community for a company to use for customer insight is finding out things you didn't even know about asking. The value of an online community for research is saying, hey, I have a slight idea of what I want to start in here, but that conversation, if I give them a platform for engagement, you don't even know what they're going to say. They're going to come up with ideas and creative things that you had no clue to even ask about, and that's compelling. So it's not about building communities. You can't build a community. It's about building platforms for engagement, and the communities form around it. That's the compelling part of communities. How do you build that community? How do we help our clients be compelling enough to say, hey, conversation started on its own. We're not sitting there asking them what we want to know. We're finding out what they want to tell us and bringing it all together. So a couple examples. There's a project that I did with a colleague of mine for the Ad Council. And everybody knows the Ad Council, right? Right? PSAs, all that cool stuff. And they came to us and they said, we want to approach teen dating and dating abuse. We want to do it in a cool way. because the ad council is extremely cool, right? PSAs. And we want to do it with teens. I was like, okay. And so she was telling me about this project that they're doing, and they've been doing it for 2 years, and they brought me in on the 3rd year to help them out, and I was working with the boys, and she was working with the girls. I said, how do we approach this? And the approach that they built was extremely compelling. They said, listen, it's going to be more crowdsourced. We don't know what they want to hear, and what we think they want to hear, they don't want to listen to. They don't want us acting like their mom and their dad, telling them, don't do this, listen to this, here's resources for this. We don't know what they want, so why not ask them? It's a novel concept, right? So they got on the social networks. They got online with them. We had respondents. I gave them my cell phone number. They were texting me throughout the day when they were talking to their boyfriend or girlfriend. They were adding us as friends on Facebook and on MySpace. And you build that trust, and now we can see what they're telling us in the controlled setting in this online community. We can see, as an ethnographic point of view, what they're doing in the conversations they're having with their friends. And then you take it one step further, you add video, you add more to the conversation. We sent them flip cams to where they could record different video diaries and send it in to us and tell us the different things they were having. And I think this will do a better job, and this shows you kind of the results of it.
We're talking about cyber abuse at the hands of other teens through social networking sites, text messages, and emails.
3 teenage girls were charged with disseminating child pornography for texting nude photos of themselves to their boyfriends.
Everyone has these photos of her. Somebody hacked into her profile on Facebook.
Some of these teens may not realize they're really being stalked by their boyfriends.
Texting. Facebook. He's always on him. It's really hard to deal with.
The Ad Council asked us to help curb teen dating violence. But when we started talking to kids, we found that teen dating has gone digital and abuse has followed. We had stumbled on a huge problem that had no laws and no defined boundaries, a problem no one was addressing. The more we talked to teens, the more we realized they wouldn't listen to adults preaching at them about such a personal subject. So our strategy was to develop a campaign that empowered teens themselves to decide what is right and wrong. The result was that'snotcool.com. Because we wanted to reach teens where the abuse is happening, our campaign is centered in the digital space. The website acted as a hub for conversation and was supported with an integrated 360 campaign. The site experience at that'snotcool.com begins with interactive videos that educate teens about common problems from both the boy and girl's point of view.
I can't be away from my girlfriend for 10 minutes without her texting me.
I'd never had a real boyfriend before.
You think you could get her to send some nude pics?
Is she messaging him?
I feel pressured. What's he thinking?
What am I supposed to do?
Click A, B, or C, and they can choose for themselves how to handle problems.
See? Send her pics of my junk. Yeah, that's it. Take it off. Get nasty, you nasty apple.
I think when you talk about things that are bothering you, it makes it a lot easier to avoid problems like this.
Popular YouTube celebs created their own videos to show kids they're not alone.
You're going on until you're dead!
Texting, calling, stalking me online.
I think we should break up.
Forums helped kids talk, give advice, and share their stories. And we gave teens tools to do something about the problem. Call-out cards could be sent to a partner's phone, email, or social network to gently say, "You've crossed the line." In outdoor and print, teens could snap a photo with their phone and send it to someone who is pressuring them or making them feel uncomfortable. And for anyone who needs serious help, there's a place to find answers and chat live with a professional. With a digital platform in place, we invited teens to join the conversation with advertising like web banners, social networks and YouTube, TV.
Wakey, wakey. LUV love you. Holla back. Holla back.
Nude pics. Send me some.
Radio.
I'd rather not send you nude pictures. My webcam is broken. Nudity makes me vomit.
Outdoor and print. And a mobile site. The campaign helped start a conversation in the media about the problem, with feature stories in the New York Times and on the Today Show.
The Ad Council hopes its website, That's Not Cool, will get teens to realize what is inappropriate behavior.
Since its launch, the site has had 700,000 unique visitors, over 28,000 call-out cards sent, and almost 200,000 video views. More and more teens are joining the discussion, deciding what's right and wrong, and creating a new set of rules in their own terms. With a little help, they're dealing with one of the most daunting problems facing them as they grow up in the digital age. Turns out.
And it starts talking about it. It turns out they get it, right? That's pretty impressive. So the first scary thing was that the target market for that was 13 and 14-year-old teens, right? So we went in their homes and we're doing in-home studies and talking about it. And the compelling thing, two things. One of them, what we found out, because I came in on the later stage after the project had launched and we were getting the feedback and a reality check on it. And we found out they were willing to get even more serious now. So they liked all the jovial nature and the goofy nature, but they were asking us for even more serious content to put on there. So you have teens asking for more serious, information, compelling. Two, they took the right approach. They didn't say, hey, we're gonna go buy space and try to get reports in the New York Times and on the Today Show first. They built a campaign that was compelling to the teens, who then talked to their parents, who then drew enough attention to get the publicity the right way. So it's not something pushed down to them. It's something that they were forced to react to the following of this. And those numbers were in the middle of last year, so I apologize I don't have the current numbers on the type of response. And so basically, you have this convergence of marketing and marketing research, which before in the research industry, some of the purists would say, oh, that's a no-no, you can't market through research. We're taking a purely, a research approach to this. But it's changing, and it really is okay most of the time. You don't have pharma companies out there, advertising in their marketing research studies. That's still a no-no. But the other thing is, in other cases, you do. So South by, everybody knows South by, right? Yay, no. Okay, a couple people know South by. So Interactive Festival down in Austin, Texas. And we work with them to do all their on-site research. We go in with our video team and we interview speakers, sponsors, attendees, exhibitors, and help the team figure out, how do you plan for next year? How do you take the festival one up even better for the next year? And I think between last year and this year, it grew 50%. So it went from over 10,000 just for Interactive alone to over 15,000, which is awesome growth. What they wanted to do was say, hey, we're not out there, we want the real stories. We can do the surveys and the web surveys, but why not take it in person? This is all about sociality, this is all about coming together in a big community. Ask them. So this is sort of a look, this is from this year. So we're here with Mark Cuban, South by Southwest Interactive 2010. What were you expecting, and what is it that brought you out here for the first time?
I've been coming here since the first year.
It is intense.
Just excited to meet all the people.
That can just make you smarter.
I'm here with Dennis from Foursquare. We're out at the Foursquare spot, so if you're not out here playing, you're missing out.
This is my 5th time at South by Southwest.
I mean, it's great to meet all the people that you know and you just talk to online all year.
To be able to meet them in person, it's just awesomeness all around.
We always joke it's like spring break for nerds.
That's right.
It's like a high school reunion, is what somebody said.
I think we get so much accomplished in 15, 20-minute windows catching up with people than all year long interacting back and forth.
We had the heads of marketing from Dell, from Lexus, from the largest interactive agencies in the world.
I've got some friends that I never would have met otherwise.
South by is new. Yeah, I love coming here.
And also just kind of learn about emerging technologies, emerging trends.
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around.
Like every year I've walked out and I've gotten not only new technology, but like 5 or 6 new thoughts in terms of what's going to be cool and what, just different ways to think.
Techie, vlogger, internet heaven, and I never want to leave.
I feel like I'm getting an education I can't get from the class.
Everybody talks about how the next time we will see each other, it would be at South by. So
nothing but great things coming next year as well.
So, sorry for I don't know what the delay was. It looked like a bad Japanese film. But the cool thing about South by is this. If they would have put out traditional advertising for South by all over the net and traditional advertising and marketing, what would happen with that crowd and that audience? They'd get stampeded upon and say, quit blasting us with your advertisements. So what did they do? What initially started out, and they hired us to come in for just research, and this was just supposed to be videos from last year that went to the team so they could plan. What they said was, you know what? Why not be transparent? Why not show that we asked these questions for a reason? We care about what you say, and this is how we're changing it. This is how, you complained about the volunteers, the lack of volunteer from last year. And so this year we installed new roving volunteer teams to help you out. And people noticed those type of things. So they used it as marketing. So that shows that convergence between marketing and marketing research and how it can be used effectively for both. So you see the marketing research teams, where we used to have our main client contacts, are now becoming both the research and the marketing and strategy teams. So the bottom line is, there's an evolving need for research solutions, not just an evolving need for a focus group or an online study or an online bulletin board. It's how do we complete a solution that works with both research and for the marketing team? Because things move so fast now and in such real time that you can't just take a research plan, develop it into a marketing, and then launch it, because by then the research insights are old. So it's not what the heck do you want? It's what makes me care. We're not asking the consumer, what do you want? We're answering the consumer's question of why do you care? Why do I care about this? Why do I want to be friends with your brand? Why do I want to make that click commitment and fan your page? And when it's all said and done, no matter how effective your market research is, it all comes down to execution, right? And I'll leave you with this. So I was down at South by, and I was interviewing Cashmore at the Mashable party. Or it was actually, maybe it wasn't the Mashable party, it was a party down there. And we're talking, and the cameras are all flashing, and videos going off because everybody thinks Pete Cashmore's so dreamy. And what happens, I get this email the next day, and I open it up, and you look at the Hollywood Reporter, and you look at Getty Images, and it shows me standing next to Pete Cashmore, and it says, opening night, South by Southwest 2010, it says, CEO of Mashable, Pete Cashmore, and CEO of Zappos, Tony Hsieh. So, and Tony was there, in all due respect, in all fairness, Tony was there, they just got the wrong Asian guy. And so I sent this tweet out, and I say, after interviewing at Pete Cashmore about South by, somebody thought I was at Zappos, oops, wrong Asian guy. And I put the picture up there. And everybody knows Zappos' story and their spiel about, the corporate culture and caring about their customers and being responsive to everybody's needs, even if it's not about shoes or clothing. So what happens? I get a tweet back from Zappos service, and the next day in my mailbox, I go and I have this FedEx package. And I open up the FedEx package, and there's one of their culture books, and Tony had signed it, and he goes, Ben, thanks for being you and not me, Tony Hsieh. Right? So it's about execution. If Zappos was preaching all of this stuff all day long and preaching about corporate culture and caring about their customers, but they never followed up on it, they didn't do those instant overnight shipping things, they didn't do things like this, what did that cost him? It cost him 2 seconds of his time in a culture book that they give out for free. And enough that somebody in their organization that he empowered in that corporate culture from running their Zappos service account to say, hey, Tony, to go up to the CEO of the company and say, hey, this is pretty funny, what can we do? And he took the time to acknowledge that employee and then act upon it. And I think that's compelling, and I think that's the future of brands, that's the future of marketing, that's the future of advertising, and that's the future of everything that every one of us are in this room are looking to do. And so that's one of my favorite quotes, Lincoln Steffens. I've seen the future, and it works. That's it. Keep in touch. My contact info is on the back here. So, thank you.